Let's talk about this.
So a woman's body count does not matter. If we both go to a used car lot, one car's totaled, one car has the engine blown out twice, head gasket never works, always has to be replaced, another car has a fender bender. Which one are you taking?
I reject the analogy because it presupposes that there's something about sex that is destructive to a body. I actually think a better version of that analogy is if you just bought the first car you ever test drove, how likely are you going to be satisfied with that car versus if you go out and test drive 5, 6, 7 cars, get an understanding of their features, what you like about them, what you don't like, then you're able to make a much better informed decision.
So again, which one would you rather take? The one that's had all these problems or the one that's had the fender bender?
I told you, I reject the analogy.
Okay, so we're going to test drive 6 different cars, 7 different cars.
Sure.
8, 9, 20? Why can't we just stick with that one car?
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
A lot of men treat body count as a proxy for trust, right? And so what I ask guys is I say, imagine 2 women. One of them is a virgin. She has 0 sexual experience.
Fender bender.
Sure, fender bender. But you catch her lying to you, she doesn't keep her word, she's unreliable. And then there's a woman who, let's say she's been with, I don't know, 10 guys,
Sure.
whatever. But she's honest with you, she always shows up when she says she's gonna show up, she does what she says she's gonna do, she's very loving, she's very caring, she's never broken her trust once. Which one is likely to be a better partner?
The first one. Because she's had 10 different partners. Or she had 10 different relationships. Why haven't those worked out?
Well, you would have to ask her that and find out.
Right.
Because people are complicated and they have different life stories.
Right, so let's ask a question here. If a woman asks me, what do I do for work? How tall am I? How much do I bring it home? Why can I ask you, what's your body count? You have standards, why can I have a standard?
The standards are fine, but I think all of those things that you just listed are arbitrary standards. And if I was surrounded by women right now, one of my claims would be height shouldn't matter. Ultimately, when you look at what drives relationship satisfaction, relationship success, these things are very low on the list, yet we tend to focus on them. We tend to over-index on them because they're very easy to measure. It's very easy to like compare 4 versus 6 or 6'2" versus 5'11", right? And so that's what everybody thinks about and talks about when it's actually, when you look at the research of like what makes for a happy relationship, these things aren't even on the map.
Okay, so if a woman has, let's say, 12, 13, 17 bodies, how many relationships have you been in? 3. What's up with the other 14 people?
She probably likes the party.
Then go party. We don't have to be together. But you can
Or maybe she used to like the party, but now she's ready to settle down.
Not with me. Bro, if you can decide who you open your legs for, you can't decide who gets down on one knee for you.
Can I ask why not with you?
If everybody's had a turn and nobody's enjoyed it, why do I want to get you now?
I used to be an anthropologist, and ubiquitously, all over the world, there are rites of passage for young men in much higher proportion than there are rites of passage for young women. I feel like globally there is an understanding that this young male energy is very volatile, and if it's not entrained to be pro-social, it will turn destructive. But even within these cultures that had initiation for young men, a lot of them were still operating in a cultural matrix or a social agreement field that viewed women as objects, expected women to police themselves, and especially their sexuality, to not trigger this part of the male ego. And not just in the Abrahamic religions. You know, even you go to some remote tribe in the Amazon and there's some big man on a big chair who's bossing all the women around him and policing them in order to conform to the script with the threat of violence. And so it's been this kind of like global collective consciousness that we've been in, primarily for the most part, and has essentially been assigning men a spouse. And that even assigning men a spouse was part of placating this part of their ego and giving them a continual binding force. That woman's job was to continue to keep the man and to keep this volatile male energy within a track that would support the survival of the collective. So that in the last, 50, 100 years, as women have been gaining more rights and we're actually able to open a bank account, buy a house, have some level of economic sovereignty, this part of men that's been able to remain infantile is now having like a full-blown temper tantrum, longing for the power that it once had. And because culture, society, the family, schooling doesn't actually address this, even men who are not overtly like this are often covertly like this. They bury it under layers of ideology that are designed to support their self-image and make it so they never have to have this part triggered. Spiritual language, moral language, long philosophical lectures, and largely, relationally, under a punishment-reward control system. So that the more that you challenge this part of them, they'll lash out, or make it a big thing, or ice you out, and disconnect, and numb, and dissociate, or say that you're hurting them. And for a lot of women, for us to feel like we're hurting a person we love is kryptonite to us. And so we do police ourselves. We do conform to this in a million ways, so that the setup, the seductive trap of being in a relationship with a man who hasn't dealt with this is basically how much of you are you willing to abandon for love? It is always how much of you are you willing to shut down in order to be seen as good and virtuous and worthy in his eyes, or just to keep the peace. Because the more that you make this part of his ego feel safe, the more of the good parts of him you get. He doesn't have the tools to process it. And so he's either going to take it out on himself or on you or on the relationship. And so it's a question of how much can you take and take on, because he can't take very much. And I will throw men a bone that I think part of the reason why they're like this is because they understand how other men are. Other men are probably swarming you. Other men probably would want to take you. No matter how evolved or intellectual or emotionally attuned he might seem, most men still have this base level operating. So if some guy is talking to you, probably on some level he does want to get with you. Sure. If you're talking to some guy, he might be thinking that you want to get with him. Sure. And I imagine that is hard for men, right? That's a lot to swallow. But the reason that he's attracted to you is for your radiance, right? It is for your energy and your essence that you're expressing. And part of being in a mature relationship is understanding that if he's attracted to you, probably other guys are going to be attracted to you also. And so the thing that is attracting him to you is also the thing that triggers him. And because he can't control other men and because he can't control society, he wants to control you. And he wants you to control yourself. It's that classic thing where they see the exotic bird and they want to put it in a cage. But doing that would be to crush what makes you you, to try and create a relational agreement that is built around not having to deal with reality or having to build actual trust and communication. And you'd think that this would be the first thing that men would deal with in order to be ready to be in an adult relationship. And yet all of society is an example of how they continue to refuse to, and how they continue to expect us as women to shut down and police ourselves so that they never have to.